franktalks.com.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight on the program. If you've got one, then if you've got a dilemma, text in 514-800, or you can call it in at 514-790-0800, or you can actually go on Facebook, go to Frank Kermit's page. He's got a feed right now. What do you call it? A
thread.
A thread going on with people's questions, so you can always put it in. But I've got one for you here on text, Frank. Touched on this on a Trouble Tuesday. Story of fiancé living overseas. We met in Europe and have been going back and forth for 2 years. Wedding next year and me moving to him. In the meantime, he pays for my plane tickets, but back home my work has suffered and struggling to make ends meet. You said I should ask him for financial help, and I did. He offered the equivalent of 10% of my expenses a month. Does this seem like a reasonable contribution? P.S. He makes 3 times what I do with minimal expenses. I'm not looking for a sugar daddy, but thinking, am I looking forward to a wedding when I haven't fixed my finances first? Okay, 2-part question on how much help is fair. So she's marrying somebody. Mm-hmm. He lives overseas. She's trying to make ends meet here. Her work suffers because she's got to keep. She's the one flying out there.
Was that why her work is that why her work is suffering? Well, because she's traveling, or is her work suffering because her work is suffering because the nature of her industry is dying? And
whatever it says that her work has suffered and she's struggling to make ends meet. I suppose if she keeps going back to Europe, she's not, can't have that much vacation, right? Mm-hmm. So she's obviously not getting paid for the time she's off. That's what would make sense to me. And I remember this because I said, well, if if the plan is for you to move there eventually, he should try to make it, I think, a little easier for you to continue to finish what you've got here until you go there.
Unless he has some suspicion that maybe she's only after him for the money.
Well, then they shouldn't be getting married if that's the case.
Hold on. I think the question says, what amount is fair? I'm not looking at fairness. I'm looking at what the needs are. Did you specify, this is how much I'm making and these are my needs? And does he agree that what you deem as a need is a need and not just
a luxury?
A luxury.
Right. I think it's important. I think that they should sit down together and do her budget.
Yeah. Well, that's what
because
I
mean
figure.
they're going to be together if they're getting married. If she goes into the marriage with debt, essentially, it's his debt anyway. It's his debt too. So,
and for that reason, he may not care as much. Maybe I'm looking at it from all perspectives here. Maybe he's thinking, okay, I'm not just going to fork over all this money before she becomes my wife. And if she racks up the debt, well, it's going to be my debt anyway, and he'll pay it then. But at least he'll know that she's not just looking to collect money and then say, oh, you know what, I don't want to marry you after all.
Right.
Because that does happen.
I'm not getting that sense, but she
says
says basic expenses, and he knows exactly why I have this issue.
Okay, basic expenses. But again, I don't know what those basic expenses are. And if she's only covering 10% of basic expenses.
He's saying he will contribute 10% of her expenses a month.
Right. And what does that cover? And is it enough? Because she's saying that
Clearly
she just wants
it's not. She's saying it's not. That doesn't sound like it's enough. It's enough.
Well, then she needs to give an itemized list and say, look, this is what I need. Be completely transparent.
Right.
And my question is, why is there an expectation that he should be paying her full expenses? Because I would look at that and say, well, wait a minute. She's not your wife yet.
I don't think she's expecting full expenses. She's expecting some, maybe. I would need to know more too. I think we're still. Are you struggling because you keep going there to visit, and then you should be saying, no, you come here. Why am I doing all the sacrificing?
There's something that we're not. Something's missing.
Yeah,
okay,
something's missing here.
Because 10% of a monthly expense is. If her monthly expenses are $2,000, then 10% is $200. But if those $200 are keeping her off the street, great. But there's something here that's amiss. Why is it only 10%? At the same time, how much is she expecting? Okay, I understand her business is suffering or her work is suffering, but I don't know why is it suffering.
I would want to know why it's suffering.
Is it
Exactly.
suffering because she's not doing her job? Is it suffering because for her to say, well, he makes this much more. So what, he makes this much more? It's what worries me, the red flag I'm seeing is that she's just saying, well, since he makes more, he should be willing to give more. Hold on now.
Right.
Up until now, you've been fine. So what happened that you're not able to make your bills anymore?
Right.
The
Okay.
fact
So let's
that he could
let's put
afford
that
it,
out there,
Yeah.
and maybe she can respond to us.
We
and
need
let
more
us know.
information.
We'll get that information, and we'll come back. We've got more questions and even more feedback, actually, from other listeners about this particular one. Dating dilemmas tonight on Passion on CJD.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight on the program. Frank Kermit in studio, dating coach, and we focus on dating stuff. So, one texter regarding, this fiance overseas says she should end the relationship because when they are together, the excitement of the travel and that visiting feeling will disappear. Well, that's kind of the problem with long distance relationships. Is often when they meet, it's a honeymoon all the time, and unless you spend a certain amount of time. Just in day to day, you really never get to know the person truly.
Well, it's the same thing that when people are advised you should live together for a few months before getting married, so you really see what it's like to be with that person.
Yeah, I don't actually think that's necessary, but at the very least, you want to see somebody in all the elements of it, like in every part of their life. You want to see how they interact with people. You want to see how they interact with their family. You want to see how they they deal with stress at work. You want to see how they deal with when they're angry. I don't think you have to live with them to know all of that. You just have to be in their presence. No, like we can argue that, but the research shows that that's not the best idea.
However, with divorce being such a huge risk, living together with someone to really see if you can get along in the same space.
That's not what the research is showing. That the research is showing that people who live together first try on the shoe first, actually are more likely to divorce. Because when you make the commitment, you should know enough before you make the commitment to marry. And it's not based on, let me just try it on first. I'll show you the research, but I'm telling you it's there. I know a lot of people don't necessarily agree with it, but that's what it's showing. So there's got to be something to that. So just to go back, and we'll think about this on the other side of the news, but she's losing money because she wrote back because of all the traveling. She's a contract worker. As a contract worker, when she's out there visiting him, she's not getting paid. There's no chance for her to make money. So to me, I think he should be coming here at least part of the time. I don't think it's fair.
If he's making as high a salary as she says, he may not have the kind of profession that he could leave for that offer.
Maybe, but then he should be covering the costs of her week there.
Or she just shouldn't be traveling as much.
Or she shouldn't be doing it, but then they won't see each other, and then blah, blah, blah,
then
right?
then you make use of Skype, folks.
Exactly. More dating dilemmas coming up next here on Passion on CJD.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
I wish we had a camera in here watching Frank dance. Dating dilemmas on the program. Okay, so we're back. Okay, the person again with this long distance relationship. This will be the end. Okay, I've had my income cut down by 60% because of the traveling. So less 60% of her income, not by choice but by circumstance. Crazy, I know. However, my bills haven't been cut by 60%. There are no luxuries at the moment, but debt has accumulated, and the stress is killing me. My worry is fixing this, but also if we are a couple, why does geography matter in helping each other? This doesn't sound good to me. There's something about this relationship that doesn't sound good to me.
There's some red flags here, okay? There's some red flags here. If the main reason that you've gone into debt and you have lost money is because of all this traveling, then a cap needed to be put on the traveling. But if your relationship is completely dependent on you being there, that's the red flag.
Yeah, there's something about that.
There's something.
Anyway,
going on.
Can I make a suggestion that you maybe take the time to talk this out, either with Frank, with me, whatever, to get a coach, get coached through this, so you have somebody to talk it through in further detail, which is what we can't really do on this show exactly.
if you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, 'cause Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com, franktalks.com.